The following story is read from J. Pauly's book, Creepy Encounters. The events I'm going to tell you about are an account of the most terrifying experience of my life. At the time of this story, I was working full-time and taking night classes for nursing. It was an exhausting schedule, but I needed certification if I was ever going to transition out of retail and into the medical field. The days were long and tiring and seemed to just blend into each other with no definitive beginning or end. It was after another long and tiring day that my life changed forever. I shuffled down the hallway towards the elevator into my apartment complex and waited. My feet and lower back were aching from another day's hard work. It was late, and you could hear a pin drop in the hallway. Hurry up, damn it, I thought to myself as I waited for the elevator. Finally, the elevator door opened. I walked in, half asleep on my feet, and pressed the button for floor 12. I leaned my head against the back wall and half closed my eyes. As the doors began to close, a hand with dirty fingernails appeared out of nowhere and stopped the door from closing, startling me a bit. The grungy hand belonged to a disturbing-looking man who joined me in the elevator. He stood next to me and stared into my eyes with an unsettling grin. I was immediately uncomfortable. I didn't recognize him as a tenant from the building. He was an older white man and looked a bit unkempt. His hair was matted down on the back, and he had a 5 o'clock shadow. He was wearing a worn-out members-only jacket from the 80s, poor-fitting corduroy pants, and dirty Nike shoes. And he smelled of liquor and body odor. He was not the tallest man, but I'm a very petite 5 feet 2 inches at 120 pounds, and can easily be overpowered. It was easy to sense my discomfort, I would imagine. I just looked forward, trying to ignore him.
"Hello,"
he said. Again, I ignored him, half closed my eyes and pretending I was too tired to respond.
"Hello,"
he said again. I was very uneasy and thought I'd better be nice to him. Maybe he would get offended and become violent if I wasn't. "Hi," I replied. He continued in a creepy, very disturbing voice.
I'm looking for Maggie. Do you know her?"
I explained to him I didn't know Maggie. But he went on. He said,
"I want to see her. Take me to her."
I could tell he was not altogether sane. I told him I didn't know Maggie, and I was very tired and I was ready to go home. He paused and said,
"What's your name?"
Being in the closed elevator with this guy was making me very nervous. I had to wait for the elevator to go all the way to the 12th floor, which took like 3 minutes. And that was 3 minutes way too long to be in close quarters with this creeper. Behind my school books, I reached into my purse and wrapped my hands around my canister of mace. I thought to myself, if he tried anything, I was going to burn his effing eyes out. Finally, my floor came up. The doors opened and I walked out quickly. But this creeper followed me.
"What's your name?"
He was raising his voice now. I just walked quicker. But I had a dilemma. I couldn't let him know where my apartment was, so I just walked right by my place. He kept pace right with me.
Hey, I just want to know your name."
I walked down the hallway very quickly now and went down the stairs. But he followed me.
"Tell me where Maggie is. I want to see her."
I was now almost at a full run and I dashed down the stairwell. The creeper was right on my tail, calling out,
Maggie, wait."
I blasted out of the door at the bottom of the stairwell and ended up in the underground garage of the apartment complex. Looked back, but didn't see anybody. The elevator creeper, as I will forever refer to him, didn't follow me into the garage, and he appeared to have just vanished. For the night, I was safe. I went inside, a bit shaken up, but was so exhausted, I just calmed down and crashed out hard. The next morning, I woke up and remembered what had happened the night before. I was scared all over again. I felt like I had no protection. It really bothered me that a disturbed man like that was freely walking around my apartment complex. As the weeks went by, I swear I kept getting glimpses of him on the street, where I'd catch the bus, and even at the liquor store down the block. I just knew it was him. It was terrifying. He seemed to just show up wherever I was, just at the edge of sight, but never too close. It must have been intentional. There's no two ways about it. I became increasingly paranoid and on high alert when I came home at night. It was a terrible way to live. I started to calm down a little bit over the next few weeks, but I was still a bit jumpy. In my paranoia, I had rehearsed in my mind and imagined a scenario over and over again. I imagined that the elevator creeper would put his hand with the dirty fingernails in the elevator door to prevent it from shutting, just as he did before. Then I imagined that as he came into the elevator, I would pull the mace from my purse and spray him in the eyes. I had rehearsed this so many times in my mind, I eventually just put my hand in my purse on my mace as soon as I would enter the elevator every single time. It was as if it became natural instinct. What eventually happened is hard to believe, but it's true. It had been 2 months since my first encounter with the elevator creeper. It was Friday, and the end of another huge week. I entered into the elevator, exhausted. Again, I pressed the 12th floor button and stood against the back wall. I leaned my head back in exhaustion. Then, just as the door began to shut, an arm reached around to stop it. Time almost seemed to slow. Every movement was in slow motion. After the hand stopped the door, the elevator creeper came around the corner and rushed into the elevator holding a rusty knife. The slowing of time meant I could make out every detail on his hand, arm, and knife. Because I had rehearsed this in my mind so many times, my hand was already instinctively gripping the canister of mace, just as it had so many nights prior. In half a second I had to react, I pulled the mace from my purse and sprayed liquid fire into his eyes. The knife was only about 20 inches from my chest when he screamed, dropped the knife, and fell to the ground. He got up quickly and scampered off with his hands over his face, running into walls and nearly falling over a planter. Eventually, he stumbled out of the front door of our building and down the sidewalk. I was screaming bloody murder at this point, and several tenants came out to see what was going on. One nice couple let me in and called the police. When the cops came out, I gave them a full report. They seemed to know the man I was talking about, and knew he was a homeless man who lived in the area. They arrested him a day later and called me with an update of my case. As I heard the news, my jaw dropped open and my eyes went wide. The police told me that he had a prior record. About 30 years ago, he was arrested for the attempted murder of his ex-girlfriend. First name, Magdalene. After telling the police what had happened in detail, they could hardly believe I had the reflexes to react so fast. I literally sprayed him in the face with the mace the second I laid eyes on him. The police said I was lucky, but I know different. Call it a premonition or a sixth sense, but I just knew it was going to happen this way, exactly as I imagined it. That sixth sense saved my life that night. Now that I think back, it was very, very strange, like I could see the future. But remember this, always, always trust your intuition.